You may have heard that a new set of laws came into effect about the use of personal data. If you haven't heard about it, welcome back. You must have been a really long way away. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain GDPR's effect in the real world to your management committee, to management companies, and also to communal property owners in Cyprus in general. And trust me, these new regulations are a good thing, and you'll probably find there's not too much work you need to do to become compliant. Okay, so just in case you were lucky enough to avoid all the news and the effects of this, on the 25th of May 2018, a new piece of legislation came into effect across all EU member states. This was called the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. This is effectively a single unified standard for data held on any European citizen and applies worldwide. They gave plenty of warning about this, but most companies left everything to the absolute last minute, as always, and then completely overreacted to this new piece of legislation. So this law in a nutshell. Now, of course, there's a lot more information about the law than I'm going to cover in this video, but these are the key bits you need to know for communal property. And I promise, once I get this legal stuff out the way, I'll let you know how it affects communal property and management committee operations. Firstly, the law states that any data held must be kept secure, and in the event of a breach in this security, they must inform everyone they hold data on. You cannot share the data on somebody with anyone else unless they have a legal right to see it, and anyone can request to see the data that's being held on them. And to bust the first myth, you don't need to have someone's consent to hold their data in all circumstances. You only need their consent if none of the following clauses apply. If there is a legal obligation which requires the use of the data, if there is a legitimate interest which requires the use of the data, where the use of the data is a vital interest to the data subject, where there is a public interest in the use of the data, or where there is a contractual requirement which requires the use of the data. So only if none of those already apply, then you need the consent from that individual. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but pretty much that sums it up. As your management committee holds data on unit owners and residents of your building or your resort, it's important to make sure you meet the new GDPR requirements. Failure to meet these regulatory requirements puts you at risk of a penalty up to 20 million euros. So on the scale of things, it's quite important. This is quite a big question. Now, almost immediately after this new law came into effect, quite a few very cheeky unit owners who my management company was pursuing for non-payment of communal fees thought they would be quite clever and say that because of this new law, we needed their consent to chase them for their debt, and the committee must delete their information and never contact them again. And to be honest, this whole matter of consent is where most companies overreacted when the law came into effect and did all these silly, unnecessary things. So maybe these debtors actually thought this was true. But categorically, no. The committee do not need the consent of the unit owners to hold their data and to contact them. And I'm going to explain why. Although consent is required in many circumstances, as I said before, it's not required where the holding of that individual's data is already a part of a contractual requirement or other legal obligation. The committee have a clear legal obligation under the property regulations to collect and keep property owners and residents' contact information and financial records to fulfil their obligations under the law. And so they have every legal right to do so under the GDPR. But I've got to say, it was a nice try for the debtors, but better luck next time. Your management committee must take active measures to ensure that property owners' data is accurate. For example, I would suggest a regular email asking owners to check their information and update you if anything has changed. and that the data is held securely. So for another example, maybe in a secure account on a GDPR compliant cloud storage service. Your owners and residents' information must not be disclosed to any third party unless they're employed by you and have a legitimate need to access this data and they comply with the GDPR requirements. A potential slip-up for committees is that it's quite common for a committee to put information on a notice board within a building. Now, since this new law, it's very important to make sure that any documents placed on a notice board does not hold any personal data of the unit owner or any other person. This might include a name, a telephone, email, or any other contact information. While the management company should also be GDPR compliant, it's important to remember under the regulations, the management committee are the ultimate ones responsible. So you are also responsible for the security of the data, and you must ensure anyone you hire is also following the GDPR legal requirements. Basically, if they mess up, you're going to need to clean it up. So it's in your best interest to make sure that they're taking this very seriously as well. Again, a very simple summary of a very long piece of legislation, but this should help answer some of the most common questions on GDPR and its effect on apartment buildings and resort management committees in Cyprus. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, you can click on the subscribe button below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to make sure you're notified when new videos are released. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I do check these and will answer them. I'm Russell Flick from the Cyprus Communal Guide, where we help you unlock your building's true potential. Thank you for watching and see you next time.